So if you think of all the changes, the fast-moving changes that are happening in the industry, the future of banking is a bit hard to predict. But I think with the experts around the table, we can have a bit of insight into what the realm of the possible is. Carlton, what do you think? Wow. Looking into your crystal ball, what do you think the future of banking is?
Wow. So I think, in the context of what we've been talking about, I think a couple of things. I think there will be a lot of challenges that will fail. I think there'll be a lot of consolidation of fintechs. I think the large organisations will change. I think there's a question about at what pace and whether it is in reaction to regulation or reaction to the challenges, frankly, completely changing some of the consumer behaviour that they have to. I think there will be this trend of collaboration between the two communities is going to continue. It's going to continue, and perversely, it's going to create more competition. I think there's a point you might think more collaboration means that we sort of take parts of the market out. I think it'll create more competition because you'll create alliances in geographies that will become very powerful, and others will have to compete with a very similar dynamic. I think I really wouldn't bet that there is not going to be a left field leap from a technological standpoint that really corners the market. I think in a particular area, I think it'd be a very brave person to bet against that. But I think overall, what you're going to see is a continuation of these two sectors collaborating and increased competition. And it is going to be very risky because there are going to be a lot of failures and consolidations along the way.
Anne?
Well, I see a very different future for what could be, well, I think we could have invisible banking. Imagine a world where your bank disappears into everything else you do. Your payments disappear into the app you use for shopping, or your bank statement appears, on your social media feed. And I think that could be facilitated by open APIs, PSD2, Payment Service Directive 2, whereby for the first time ever, we have, most of the big organisations, especially here in the UK, working on a project to open up their data, open up in a very secure way so that other parties can consolidate, make payments, and collaborate in this environment. So we could have a world where you get your app from HSBC and your bank account is with RBS. You could have a world where you don't actually have an app. Everything's integrated into some other service. And a couple of the big banks could be replaced by ecosystems where people really focus on doing one thing. People want choice. And at the moment, there's not much choice. All big banks look very much the same from a retail banking point of view. So what if there was the opportunity for a lot of these fintechs to get together in an ecosystem around a couple of banks and provide that alternative, choice for customers? At the moment, banking hasn't really changed. So we started off with the branch. We took those systems that people used as tellers in the branch and we put them on the web. We then had call centres and then we had a mobile app. What if it was all very, very different? And I think there's a very, very good chance with new legislation that could happen.
Anthony, can I ask you, especially around the corporate and investment banking side of things, how do you see the future of banking?
Yes, well, talking there about retail banking, and I know we're well aware of the level of transformation and disruption that's already happened there. Not because I work in retail banking, because I've got plenty of banking apps on my smartphone, right? And I first got involved in looking at the fintech sector because we were interested in whether the fintechs were moving beyond distribution, moving beyond the retail into the core of what a bank is. And we found they were trying to. a lot of barriers to entry and a lot of hurdles to overcome. And actually the banks want to take a lot of what the fintechs have to offer in that space. And I think in the future what we're going to see over the next 5 or 10 years is more collaboration between fintechs and institutions that get to the right core of transforming the core of what a bank does. Predicting the future is very dangerous, right? There's a very well-worn Bill Gates quote that I use too much probably, but it's true, I think, which is, people always overestimate what's going to happen in the next 2 years and underestimate what's going to happen in the next 10. So if you took the journey we've been on with distributed ledger technology, maybe it's not going to have such a major impact in the next few years, but maybe it could significantly transform the way that we execute, clear and settle trades maybe in a decade or two.
Francisco?
So a couple of things. I think from a retail bank perspective, I am officially going to steal Anne's line of making it invisible. It's recorded now. So no, but I think it's basically banking is, the concept of banking is going to be the use of what you make. I call an Uber. It has to be paid somehow. I do my food. I travel. It's not I have a bank where it keeps my money. It's something very different. Invisible is a good point. Embedded, atomized. I think that's one key point. The second one is in terms of infrastructure, a lot of operations, a lot of the technology that is what I call the pipes. That change in the next, I think, 5 years is going to be amazing in terms of how to do things in a very different way. And then the third one that we haven't spoken about, people think, by definition, they think fintech is small companies. They're not thinking, they are, but to a big extent, they're not thinking Google, they're not thinking Apple, they're not thinking Goldman Sachs, they're not thinking SocGen. There's a lot of stuff going on that's going to change, that is going to come from not the people that I work with every day on the startup, but it's coming from somewhere else. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 3-4 years, that thing that's embedded, invisible, in the bank is not what we know now as a bank on that part.
Paul?
So I'll take a different tack. So I totally agree that it's madness to make predictions. The best that we can do is say the ecosystem will change, but what specific app, et cetera, we don't know. I think, though, from my infrastructure perspective, that a radical change will come from the use of smart contracts to enable banking transactions. Why do I say that? Because smart contracts, in my view, are the solution to the back office problem. If two banks make a trade and that is done by a bit of code, and that is the legal side and the operational side and the clearance and the regulatory side of the whole thing in one instrument, then that changes banking. That can happen in retail as well. People can take out smart contracts by smart loans. And if I can tie this up, the one nice thing about smart contracts is they get great visibility as to a bank's position. So to me, that's visible banking. And no, it's visible banking from a kind of a treasury point of view, a risk point of view, and a regulatory point of view. And that's what we want, because we don't want any more financial crisis where not only did things go wrong, but no one knew what was going wrong at the time. So I think that'll be a transformational technology. Most customers might not see it, but from the banking insiders, that'll definitely be a big one.
So visible back office, invisible front office.
Something like that, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much.